Good afternoon, and welcome to Lifelong Learners. And I'm your talk show host, Terrence Perry. And I have an exceptional guest with me today. She's my His Coach Training Academy, actually director, and her name is Nanette Floyd Patterson. She's known as the Vision Manifestation Queen. And I'm going to let her explain why she's known as the Vision Manifestation Queen. Nanette, welcome to the show today. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And without further ado, I'm going to jump right into a couple of questions about you being the Vision Manifestation Queen
Okay.
and how did that title come about?
Okay. Well, that title came about a few years ago when I was actually helping some individuals start their business. And they weren't expecting me to be so direct with the instructions. And one of the persons said, "Wow, you are a vision manifestation queen." And I said, "Oh, I love that." And then I took it before the Lord and I said, "God, do you like this? Can I use this as a brand?" And he gave me the thumbs up basically. And so I've been using it ever since, the Vision Manifestation Queen.
And that leads me into my next question, which is about you being the director of His Coach Training Academy, and that's the academy that I went to and got my life coaching certification, but it's His Coach
Yes.
Training certification. So,
Yes.
explain a little bit about your academy and the difference in the His Coach uh, Training Academy and opposed to Life Coach for
Okay.
the audience.
Okay. Well, his coach basically means we're his coach, and his is the Father. And God gave that to me a few years ago, about 4 years ago. And his is actually an acronym for "Here I am, send me." And it's from Isaiah 6 and 8. You know, when God asked, "Whom shall I send?" And Isaiah responded by saying, "Here I am, send me." And it is basically a message to the world that God can use us whenever, wherever, and however he sees fit. And the reason why that's important, because when you go to most life coach um, training programs, and I'm not knocking it, but as you go through other trainings, they tell you what not to do. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, as representatives of God, if he tells us to do something, who are we to respond by saying, "Oh, I can't do that because of a title"? And so he gave me permission to give others permission to allow him to use them however he sees fit. And so a his coach is someone who has first yielded to the call of God, whatever that calling is. I believe a calling is simply whatever God tells you to do. That's your calling. And so a his coach has yielded, said yes, and they have said, "God, use my complete design, and that's everything about me, to your glory, to do your work." And that's what a his coach is. We unapologetically say we look to hear from God, we look for his instructions so that we can do his work, his will, his way. That's what a his coach is.
That's a powerful coach,
Yes.
but then again, we have a powerful leader also. So that would speak to having a powerful, being a powerful coach. I'm gonna segue a little bit. Anyone that want to call into the show, you can call into the show at 919-518-9773 and call in and ask any questions. If you want to know how to become a his coach, or if you got any questions about coaching, do call into the show. We have Nanette Floyd Patterson. She's the director of His Coach Training Academy, she's known as the Vision Manifestation Queen. Again, let me take you back to the Vision Manifestation Queen, because I want to kind of hop on just the term, the vision manifestation, and let you elaborate on on that vision and how the academy brings a person's vision to fruition.
Well, at first, when I say the word vision, vision is whatever God shows you, okay? Because first you got to visualize it. And so whatever he's telling you to do, it starts up here. It's like he gives you a picture in your mind, okay? And so with the Vision Manifestation Queen and the His Coach Academy, what I do after the students go through the training, I find out where they are and I find out what God has told them to do. Because at the end of the day, it's all about what God tells us to do. It's about his instructions. And then we find out exactly how he has shared with that person how he's going to use their design. And now when I say design, I'm talking about personality, how they look, how they sound, basically everything about them. Because I believe God uses our complete design to do his work, his will, his way. And so as a Vision Manifestation Queen, I actually use that brand to work with the his coaches once they finish. And the first thing I do once they finish, I have a session with them to find out exactly where they are. Because you have to meet people where they are. Everyone is not ready to start a big practice or a coaching business. Some people may want to be a his coach or someone to help others get from where they are to where God where God wants them to be as a ministry or as personal development. So as the Vision Manifestation Queen, I help that his coach once they've graduated to decide where they are now and where God wants them to be. And then I lovingly push them to do just that.
Okay. Also, now we have Ria on the line as well, and also the producer Amnon Nissan is in the room also. You guys feel free to chime in as you want to, because I believe in tag teaming, and if we need to tag team that, we're gonna tag team it this evening. So
Tag team. Okay.
and anybody want to call in again, feel free also.
I was watching Steve Harvey show last night, and they were talking about designer babies, and if it's true or not, and everything. What you were talking about, how we're made. And Steve went. He said, "Well, if you can stop a birth defect, it's all right. But the rest, I don't think he needs our help."
There you go. That's true. That's true. That's true. I think if we could, as individuals, could accept who we are and allow God to use who we are and what we've experienced, because at the end of the day, it's to glorify him. And some of us are not very comfortable with that. And I think, if everyone were to get comfortable, we could get some things solved here on the earth.
Oh man, you said a mouthful right there. But the key thing that you did say was, if people got comfortable with themselves and would truly be who they are. Oftentimes we see everybody that wants to imitate somebody else and not be themselves, hide behind name brand clothes, designs, and those sort of outward gimmicks. But again, as you said, you have to look inside yourself and really look to see, that you have a creator.
Right.
So that should give you strength anyway, knowing that you got a creator.
Yes.
And that should let you know that you are a co-creator in your own design. That should strengthen you to want to be who you are.
Yes.
But we know we fall short of being that. A lot of times we're suffering from, I guess, self-esteem issues, issues of, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Am I enough? And I think that this society in and of itself breeds that kind of thinking, because this society in and of itself is about, making a dollar, making a profit. So that's what they have to sell. Like, you are not enough. But if you buy this product, then you will be. So a lot of times we get lost as the human race and not feeling good about who we are or what we can do, what we can achieve, because we're looking outward instead of looking inward to that, that strength that's within us. But as you spoke about his coach training academy, I know one of the things that you do certify people to be his coaches, but also you take that a step further and help them design or develop their business as well, or entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So can you speak to that and how that works in your coaching practice, but also in helping those that you coach become entrepreneurs?
Well, what I do, I allow God to use my total design, and I come from an entrepreneur background. I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. And so what happens, God uses every element about Nanette Floyd Patterson to help his coaches. And so not only am I a licensed professional counselor where I can, deal with the emotional stuff, but I'm also a serial entrepreneur. And so God uses that part of me to help the person start their business, but not just that. Sometimes people want to start businesses, but they're not quite ready because they haven't really dealt with the vision blockers. And the vision blockers are the fear and the fear of rejection and all those things. And so what I do, I use both of those, the counselor and the entrepreneur, to help the person decide where they are. And sometimes his coach may say, when they start, they may say, well, I want to start my business. But after they finished and see what it all entails of having a business, they may have to take a pause. And I encourage a pause because you don't want to start a business when you're not at least 80% ready. If you have a lot of emotional stuff going on, if fear has really embraced you or grasped you to the point where you are afraid of social media or afraid to take pictures, if you are in the public and you're going to go on social media, trust me, people need to see your face. So there's certain things people have to work out first. And so that first meeting after people graduate, that's what we decide whether they're really ready in this season.
So you mentioned that you take the entrepreneurial spirit of that person and the coaching aspect of them becoming a certified coach, merge the two if they're ready, and then take them toward their vision.
Yes.
That's how that manifestation queen works.
Yes.
It takes the vision and make it plain in the individual life of that person if they're ready. But you did say, hey, if they need to take a pause, take that pause. Sometimes you do have to take a few steps back before taking those steps forward to really, I guess, to get into to listen to this, I guess, the spirit.
Yes. Yes.
And see if that's what God is telling you it's time to do.
Exactly.
Is he telling you this is the season to do that? Or is this the season to prepare for such an endeavor?
Yes.
But again, you do several things. You're a coach, you're also a counselor, and you're a therapist. So and all of that involves healing. But how is the healing different in each aspect of those areas of your expertise? You're coaching, you're counseling, you're a therapist, you're a healer all the way around. But how do they differ? As you do each one.
Well, when you're talking about healing, it's a spiritual healing, okay, and I work from what I call 3 dimensions of emotional healing, and I take those the 3 dimensions of emotional healing, and I combine it with everything else I do. And so the 3 dimensions are spirit, soul, and body. And we know spirit, you have a human spirit, and the Holy Spirit communes with your spirit. The Holy Spirit doesn't commune with your hand. or your leg, okay? Then you have soul, and you know your soul is your mind, your will, and your emotions. And your soul deals with your thinking patterns, you know, your attitudes and your beliefs about certain things. And then, of course, you have your body. We know that there are certain things environmentally that can affect us and cause us to feel a certain way. Like one example would be if you're deficient in vitamin D, studies show that it can affect your mood. And so a lot of, especially African American women, don't realize that they're deficient in vitamin D. So in my practice, I have them go get a physical first. And so what I do, I take all of the ingredients about Nanette that God orchestrated, and I apply it to coaching, counseling, facilitating, teaching, anything I do. I combine them because I want God to use my whole voice, you know, my whole design. And so I just bring it all together.
But that's powerful. That's powerful. The I guess the vision in seeing how all of that works, it is powerful. Um, but let me ask you this too. Now, how do his coach training academy you certify people now? How do a coach work with a church? How does a how would a pastor utilize a coach with that practice? Because a lot of times, what I'm seeing is a lot of the, I'm gonna say black churches, because I don't know a lot, but a lot of the black churches, the pastors that I've talked to, do not embrace having a certified his coach or life coach. You know, they don't embrace that openly. It's like they are invading their space or taking over their territory. Can you speak to that and see? I mean, what can be done to change that view of working together?
Yeah, other than prayer.
Definitely a lot of prayer.
Well, I think just educating the leadership of that church, you know, coaches, counselors, you know, we're not there to take over the pastor's job or any other leader's job. We're simply co-laborers just like they are. But with coaching, there are fundamental skills of coaching, and that is, you know, of course, effective listening and asking thought-provoking questions, insightful questions. And you know, Terrence, the first coach was God. And if you remember, back in Genesis, he asked quite a few questions, and of course, he knew the answer, but he still posed the question. But I think if coaches, regardless of the niche or niche, however you say it, educating the leader and letting them know exactly what coaching is and exactly what results they give if the leader decides to allow them to join the team. It's a team effort.
Okay.
And so just educating the leadership and saying, hey, I'm not here to take your job. And of course, in a certain way, I'm not here to take your job. I'm here to co-labor with you. I'm here to get the results that God ordained for your sheep.
Uh, you say you're a sheep, so there's a flock.
Hmm.
Elaborate on that terminology just a little bit in terms of, because I know I've heard you say before that your flock will know your voice,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I know I've heard that in the church, but also when it comes to coaching, also
Yeah.
your flock will know your voice.
Yeah. Well, in, you know, even ministry or business, there is a particular group of people that you're called to. We're not called to everybody. You know, I feel like I'm called to Christian women who are struggling with depression and things of that nature. And so those individuals who I'm called to, they're my sheep or my flock. And in the business world, flock is simply your target audience. They're the ones that God wants you to focus in on. You know, they're the ones that God wants you to give much of the value to. So target audience is the same as flock.
Target audience.
Yes. And I believe that, you know, just like the Bible says, you know, your sheep will hear your voice. You know, oftentimes we're worried about, you know, who's going to listen to us and, you know, who's going to accept us. I believe that if you're whoever's called to you, will flock to you, regardless of how you look, regardless of how you sound. And when they flock to you, guess what? They're your flock.
And now too, you also often heard saying, guard your time like a pit bull. I know when I was in your class, you utilize that terminology a lot. And but give us that, I guess, the true understanding of what are you saying when you say guard your time like a pit bull.
What I'm saying with that is, people say, oh, I don't have enough time to do this. I don't have enough time to do that. Well, if you were to guard your time like a pit bull, because we have time, we have different things that drain our time, right? But if we were to really, really look at our time, we only have 24 hours in a day. And if we can look at the activities that we involve ourselves in and how much time it took, and we subtracted that from the 24 hours, whatever is left over is all you have to do extra stuff. And so sometimes I believe if we value our time a little more, we will not let individuals suck the life out of us, or, take so much time when we need to take time for ourselves, time to relax or meditate or pray. And so guarding your time is basically saying, hey, I'm important too. So there is a pocket of time that I'm going to guard so that I can have for myself. So that's what guarding your time like a pit bull is. Pit bulls, they will bite you. They will be quite aggressive if you are in their territory. And that's what that means. Just know that your time is valued. And if a person if you don't value your own time, other people will not value your time.
All right, and that's powerful. Two, I want to ask you to kind of guide the audience into understanding how to become a his coach with His Coach Training Academy. What do it take to become a coach, or are you worldwide to where anybody can, anywhere all over the world, if they want to join your academy or go online to become a his coach, can they do that? How does your academy work in getting people certified as his coaches?
Okay. Well, there are 3 ways a person can get certified. You can get certified online or home study, or attend the teleclass, which is an 8-week class, or you can attend an on-site class here in Raleigh, North Carolina. The home study is basically you don't have any time constraints. You finish it when you finish it. As I said, the teleclass is 8 weeks, and then the on-site is 1 day, all day long. It's usually from 9:30 to 5, and we do a lot of role playing. It's more application that I have to observe before I certify you. So it's actually 3 ways to actually get certified as a certified his coach. And a certified his coach is simply a Christian life coach who emphasizes a spirit-led life. That's what a his coach is. So it's 3 ways to get certified.
Let me ask you this too, along those same lines. In getting certified, how many hours is required, and how much study? Well, interviewing, because you have to do the practical application. Because I know you made me do it, so I hope you're making everybody else do it too.
I am.
Practical application.
I am.
So how many hours is that altogether to become a certified his coach with the hours and the practical application?
Okay. Well, I need to for the application of coaching, they have to have at least 5 coaching sessions. They have to actually submit those to me. So if you're home study, you have to send those coaching sessions to me. Teleclass, we do a lot of the role playing online, but we have to have at least 5 sessions on the books, and the on-site as well. So at least 5 practice sessions, and those sessions include others who are volunteering, but some of the sessions are real people who are looking for coaching. So at least 5. So 5 to 7 hours of coaching must be submitted to me.
All right. So let me ask you, just as we are wrapping up, what what legacy do you want to leave behind, and what contribution do you want to make to humanity as as you are?
That's a great question, Terrence. My heart is for individuals just to do what they're called to do, just to do what they're passionate about. And I feel like I can feel a person's passion for the vision that God has given them, and I want to play a vital role in manifesting that. I want individuals to say, hey, I simply want to be so I can go. And so everything I involve myself in, I encourage people to just simply be and go. That's the major message that I want to give the world. And however God decides to use me to just be who God called you to be, and then go do whatever He's telling you to do.
All right. Nanette, what is your guilty TV pleasure?
Oh my goodness. You didn't tell me that question was coming.
We thought I'd throw that in.
I love Criminal Minds.
From the mind.
I can watch that all day long, and I think they have like 12 seasons, if not more. And I think I've watched them all. So that is my guilty pleasure. Criminal Minds,
Okay.
or Olivia. What is?
Olivia Pope.
No, I don't watch Scandal. No, no. With Ice-T. I can't think of the show. If you hadn't asked me that question,
Oh, Law and Order.
Law and Order. Those two, Criminal Minds and Law and Order.
Okay.
Yes.
Just before closing, tell us how we can get in touch with you through social media. Anybody that want to sign up for the academy, how would they sign up? And just how could they get in touch with you or the academy to become a certified his coach?
Okay. Well, if you would like to become a certified HIS coach, you can visit our website at His Coach Academy, hiscoachacademy.com. You can follow me on Facebook at Nanette Floyd Patterson, and I'm also on Twitter at His Entrepreneur. That's how you can follow me or connect with me.
All right, listen, Nanette, I appreciate you coming on today. That's been a big help, and I hope it clarifies a lot to the audience as to how to become a life coach, his coach, and how to get involved in your academy. I know I went through the academy about 3 years ago. It was life changing, and I guess that's partly why I'm sitting in this seat today is because of going through the academy, becoming a certified HIS coach, and seeing the vision, making it plain, and just trying to follow, just follow my dreams and the vision that God have given me, and many others. So again, I want to thank you for coming on today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Feel free to come back, huh?
She's staying, right?
No, she's gonna leave, but she knows she's always welcome back. That door is always
Thank you.
open.
I appreciate that.
I hope that the audience and people, because a lot of people have asked me about becoming a certified coach, how to do it, and where to do it at. So now they got the tools, they got the information that they need.
Yes.
Let's see it happen.
All right.
All right,
Thank you
Nanette,
for having
thanks.
me.
All
Thank you
right,
for having
and
me.
I appreciate you for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna segue to the next half of the show. I have another guest that's gonna be on Real Story. Ria is in the wider Atlanta area, and she's gonna be talking to us today about her story and her testimony. So we're gonna move into that segue. Ria, how you doing?
I'm well, Terrence. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm glad that we got you right here today, back to back with Nanette Floyd Patterson, and now we have your story, and I want to kind of just get you to kind of give the audience an idea of what real story is all about, just in a nutshell, and then I'm gonna kind of break off into a few other questions that I have for you also.
Sure. Thank you, Terrence. You know, my story, it took me a long time to realize my story really wasn't about me. I tell people that I'm telling God's story through my life. My story is about resilience, it's about hope, it's about healing. But it took me many years to get to the point of realizing that and realizing that there was healing and there was hope for the future in that. Um, I grew up from age 12 to 19 as a victim of being sexually abused. And after I left home at 19, I spent many years just trying to pretend that that half of my life never existed, never happened.
Real,
Um, Go ahead.
let me stop you before you go further because I want to kind of guide that conversation a
Okay.
little bit. But let me back you up to before the age of 12.
Hmm.
You grew up in Alabama on a
Yes.
farm. You grew up where both parents there at the time when
Yes.
you grew up. Okay.
Yes. My mother did not work outside the home, so my brother and I were homeschooled, which, you know, back in the early 1980s, homeschooling was not well known.
Right.
There weren't a lot of resources available for homeschoolers like there are now. It was really just such a new thing. A lot of people didn't understand it very well. So we were pretty isolated, you know, growing up on a farm and way out in the middle of the woods. We didn't have regular contact with others through school or anything like that. So we were pretty isolated growing up.
So now you dropped out of high school and ran away from home by the time you were 18, 19.
Well,
Uh,
I didn't drop out because I was homeschooled the entire way through. I never attended a regular high school
okay.
um, at all, and so that was a completely foreign experience. So, but I did try to run away from home several times. By the time I was 19, it was my third attempt. Just really desperate to get out.
Let me, as you know, when you I guess you did leave home at the age of 19.
Yes.
At the age of 19, without I guess anything, without a car, without a high school diploma in hand, uh, but somehow you got to another place and you were able to get involved in healthcare work
Mm-hmm.
for
Sure.
a period of time.
So after I left, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a car. I didn't have any money. I didn't have a job, um, and I also didn't have a high school diploma. I didn't even have a GED. So I realized that my options in making a living were pretty limited, and the only job I was able to find, or the first job I was able to find, was working waiting tables. And it didn't take me long to realize that's not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So I started going to school, working during the day and going to school at night, all with the goal of being able to find a job in healthcare administration at a hospital there where I live locally. And it took me a long time to get there. I worked more than 10 years going to school full time, working sometimes two jobs 7 days a week, and then going to school at night and on the weekends to achieve that goal. But it was worth it. It was a good growth point for me, for sure.
Okay. Now, now I'm gonna back you up a little bit because I don't want to downplay that which you spoke about, that your father he sexually abused you from the age of 12 to 19, and I guess a lot of that sparked you trying to run away from home. I guess three or four times. Um,
Absolutely.
but I do want you to kind of talk a little bit more about that. You say your mother was in the home and but didn't work outside the home. Now let me ask you: was your father ever prosecuted um,
No.
for any of that?
No, when I left, I didn't tell. I carried so much of a burden of guilt and shame. I really was not interested in pursuing pressing charges or anything like that. I really just wanted to move on with my life. And at that point, I was not a minor anymore. I was 19. And it was just really my wish to just move on and try to just let things go. My parents moved away. They cut off all contact with our family. Only a few close family members knew what had happened. But my parents were very, very vindictive about the fact that I had shared with anyone. I was told that I was going to hell. I was told that I should come back and live at home. My mother blamed me and said it was my fault. So it was a couple month period of just a lot of chaos in my life. And, I really wanted to put it behind me. And I just said, just don't call me anymore. If you can't support me in my new life, then I don't need that. And they moved out of state. I don't even know where they are at this point.
And I know you like I said, you moved on, and and you wrote a book, From Ashes to Beauty. When did you write the book? And I kind of got an idea of how that came about, but just speak to that. And because as you wrote that book, From Ashes to Beauty, you also started a organization, Top Story.
Sure.
Leadership. So just kind of speak how that one led into the other, and now with the resilience, you were able
Sure.
to overcome your past and not be a victim, but become a victor, and and you've moved forward.
Sure. So, I spent 13 years, working and going to school. From all outward appearances, I was very successful. I had a fantastic career working in the hospital. I had an MBA. I had a house. We took a vacation every year. I appeared and we were very successful on the outside. But, I still had some healing that needed to take place in me. And in 2013, I heard Les Brown speak. And Les Brown said, "You have a story." And he said, "Someone needs to hear your story, but only you can help that person." And I thought, I've got a story, but I don't want to tell it. And I spent 6 months just really refusing to even consider the possibility. I tell someone that I felt God just laying that burden on me and saying, this is why, this is why you've come through, and this is why you've survived. And the best thing I can say is it didn't take a whale to change my mind. So it took about 6 months for me to realize that I could speak about my story. And that was the first step. I really just said, okay, Lord, if this is my why, then I need to honor that. I went to a Les Brown speaker training contest, and the rules were simple. We only had 60 seconds. We could say anything we wanted, but it could only be 1 minute. And leading up to the contest, I knew that was the story I wanted to share. I just wasn't sure I could do it. And I struggled with that. I didn't tell anybody what I was going to do. And just because I wasn't sure that I could get through it. I just still carried so much of a sense of shame and guilt from the past. And so I stood up for my 1 minute on stage. And, right before I went on stage, I just prayed. I said, Lord, I can't do it by myself. And it was almost at that moment that I realized I couldn't do it by myself, but I had divine help. And realizing it wasn't about me, but it was helping somebody else move forward, made all the difference. So I did. I was able to get on stage and share my 1 minute speech. And as it turns out, I won the contest. I was one of 5 winners. And when I stepped off that stage, it didn't matter because I had won such a bigger victory inside myself, because I had really been able to overcome. And instead of being the victim, I was no longer a victim. I was a victor. So as a result of that, I got to speak on stage with Les Brown in 2014. And that's when I started writing my first book, Ria's Story, From Ashes to Beauty. So that was published in 2014, and I wrote really a follow-up book. When I wrote Ria's story, it was the story. It was my story from here's where I started growing up, and here's how I got to where I am today. But I realized there was so much more to say about resilience afterward. So this year, just about 3 months ago, I released Beyond Bound and Broken, which was a sequel's not the right word, but it was really about more of the lessons on resilience, how to overcome adversity. Because we all experience adversity. I mean, Terrence, we all have a story. It's not when we're going to go through hard times in life. It's just how do we deal with it. So I really wanted to capture the lessons so that someone else could really, learn to overcome, move through the stages of healing and move from being a captive in your heart to being overcoming and triumphing over that.
Okay. So you wrote Beyond Bound and Broken. That was the follow-up book to your first book, From Ashes
Yes.
to Beauty.
Yes.
Now, are those books available on Amazon, or is there a website?
They are available on Amazon. They're also available on my website. You can go to Top Story Leadership, and that's TOPSTORY leadership.com. And there's a link to a resource page there. And you mentioned that Top Story Leadership it's a consulting and motivational speaking firm that my husband and I co-founded. After I heard Les Brown speak, I went through some leadership training, and I really became passionate about leadership of the individual. We often hear leadership and we think, well, leadership is for the boss, or leadership is for the top CEO. But leadership is influence, and it's just as important to be able to lead ourselves as it is to lead someone else. And so I'm really passionate about that leadership from within. Again, developing ourselves internally, because we can't give someone what we don't have. So we have to be able to make sure that we're equipping ourselves.
So let me ask you how you speak to resilience in terms of the transitions that you've made in your life, even from starting back in Alabama when you were a kid to the early years of being a teenager and being molested and moving forward. But speak to the resilience that you had to have to get beyond that. You went back to school and got 3 degrees, as well as you wrote a book, started your own. You and your husband started your own company, Top Story Leadership. So just speak to that resilience that you had to have to push on, to get to that level and not give up, not to beat yourself up, and how did you
Sure.
continue to excel beyond the feeling of not being good enough, the feeling of being shameful, and feeling guilt?
I think when it comes to resilience, just the word makes you want to sit up and take notice. Resilience, when we think of resilience, we think of thriving, of bouncing back and springing forward and really overcoming something. And I talk about 3 steps. Even in my book, I mentioned some of this on how to become resilient. How do we get there? Because there were certainly some dark days. I mean, there were, and I'm not proud of it, but there were certainly times when I even considered ending my own life. And how do you move past that to being able to talk about that and share that and be transparent enough to say there's still pain there, but I'm able to overcome that. So I talk about resilience. 3 key things to help you be more resistant is, number 1, changing our attitude. It doesn't matter what life hands us. We can take that and we can be bitter about it, or we can choose to be better because of it. And when I learned to be able to change my attitude and be grateful for what I have instead of bitter about what I didn't have, it was a huge mindset shift. So changing our attitude is one of just the key things. I love what Viktor Frankl says. He was a concentration camp survivor. And he said, this man had been tortured. He lost his family in the concentration camps. He lost his wife, his children. And he said, after he got out, he published a book. And he said in the book, he said, I realized that everything could be taken from man except one thing. The last of human freedoms is the ability to choose your attitude in any set of circumstances. And that was powerful for me when I read that, because, it's something that's so fundamental, but so often we don't do it. Just that ability to choose our attitude. We can wake up today and be grateful for something, or we can wake up today and look for the negatives. And it says easy, but it does hard. It's making that choice. It's not an easy choice, but it is a choice. The second thing I talk about is changing your thoughts. Again, once you've made that shift in mindset from attitude to a positive attitude, then start changing what you think about. Oprah Winfrey said, what we focus on expands. And it's so true. If we find ourselves dwelling on negative thoughts, regardless of what it is, maybe it's the loss of a job or the loss of a loved one. Maybe it's a physical disability. Whatever it is, the more we choose to think about what we cannot control, the more downward we will spiral. So if we change our thoughts and start to think about, well, what can I do? What are the things that I can do something about? Learn to look for those opportunities. And it's a huge shift, because it's changing your focus onto something that you can control. If we're going to focus on something, let's focus on the things that we can fix, the things that we can do. And then the third thing I talk about is changing your habits. A lot of times habits are those go through the motions, actions that we don't really think about. But our habits don't always serve us. They can be good habits or they can be bad habits. And habits could be emotional habits. They could be physical habits, like how are we dealing with stress in our life? If we're using that and coping as an example as overeating or undereating, that's a habit that doesn't serve us. The habits are the things that we create in our lives, and sometimes because we don't think about them, we're not intentional about them, we let them take over. I teach a lot of classes and I speak to a lot of people, and I had a lady tell me one time, she said, what I realized, I was spending so much time on social media. And when I sat down and looked at all the things I had to get done, and I cut out the social media and the games on her phone, she said, I have all kinds of time. So she had a habit of playing games on her phone and social media that wasn't helping her achieve her goals. So when we want to be resilient, we have to look at those three things: our attitude, our thoughts, and our habits. And all of those pieces need to be in alignment to help us be resilient. It's talking about bringing those things you can control and to set you up for success. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense, and it's consistent with how to change your life, because you change your life by changing your habits.
Absolutely.
And you change your habits by changing your thought process, and then changing your thought process from either negative to positive, or, sometimes it takes getting out of a certain environment or around certain people. But
absolutely,
that still takes a change in mindset, a change in thoughts about what you want for your future, and a change in your thought patterns as to, if you want those things, what do I have to change that I'm doing now to do different to bring those things about. And you also speaks to tenacity, which is, those habits and that persistency. Can you speak to that a little bit also?
Sure. I talk about tenacity in terms of it's one step at a time. A lot of times we look at a goal, whether it's a professional goal, a career goal, or maybe it's a health goal, or maybe it's just a mindset goal. And we look at that and it's so big, it's so overwhelming that we go, I can't do it. So think about it, break it down into small steps. You know, we don't have to affect transformation today, but if we can make a lot of good choices consistently over time, that's the key to transformation. Now, tenacity is where you have to come in and grab hold of those good choices and make them consistently. So, you know, it's almost like a determination factor,
Right.
and it's something that you can't. Most of us have it naturally. Think of when you learn to walk. Think of when a baby learns to walk, right? What happens? They get up and they take that first step and they fall. And they get up and they take another step and they fall again. And they do that over and over and over. But that baby, even before they can even walk, and even before they can even talk, they have a natural tenacity already inside them, right? Because they are absolutely determined to get up and try again, and get up and try again. Now, the baby isn't failing in learning to walk. They're just learning how to do it. And a lot of times we lose that perspective. It's the same thing when we carry that into our adult life. You know, we learn how not to do something, and we call it failure, and we quit trying. But if we call it learning and we learn the lesson and say, well, I found a way not to do that. Let me try something else. It's only failure if you quit trying. And that's the key. Just don't quit.
I think that's definitely key. The the way you explain that is you know it's steps, but also it's the mindset shift from if you fall you get back up. That's not a failure. You said
No,
that's learning.
that's learning.
A lot of people look at it as failure and they don't get back up. They down, they stay down.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, as that mindset shift, then you understand that it's not a failure, it's not a fall to where you can't get back up. It's a learning experience. You learn from it and you move forward. We're running out of
Absolutely.
time, but I do want to ask you a little bit about you've been married for 15 years. How did you know that was the man for you, and how you all have successfully put together a company, a leadership development company, and and your life have changed from from what it was as a teenager to all that it is now.
Sure.
But with that support system and a positive partner, can you speak to that being
Absolutely.
that life changing experience?
Um, you know, Mac and I have been so blessed. I tell someone, you ask for an answer to prayer, and it doesn't always look like what you expect. My answer to prayer was really, at the time, was agnostic. He did not believe in God, and really did not believe in God for the first 12 years of our marriage. But I called him my knight in a shiny Camaro because he was that person that believed in me 100%, was willing to stay behind me and support me. He was able to help me just get out of a situation, and mentally say you can move forward, and that's huge. I think we all need that cheerleader in our life. Sometimes when we're feeling hopeless, if we can look around and borrow someone else's belief in us, that can be huge. Um, so, successful relationship requires just the complete commitment from both parties. And we have come together, learning to now live and work together because we work full time here, in the same place, all the time because we love what we do. But we're both passionate about what we do, and that's the thing. We've learned to do what we're passionate about as individuals, but we've also found a way to blend that together into something that we enjoy doing together. So frequently we speak on stage together, in fact, most of the time, because we enjoy that. And it's not about competing with that other person, but appreciating the differences in the relationship and then valuing the strengths of that other person. And when you can do that, you can come together as a team, like any team, whether it's a corporate team or an organizational team. It's about valuing the strengths of the different members and then appreciating the opportunity to do something bigger together.
All right, and that's powerful. Let me ask you: do you all talk about that on stage as a sort of like relationship coaching?
We do. And you can go to our website, topstoryleadership.com, and you can see several different topics. We speak together. We speak at churches, or we'll speak at companies, conferences, keynote presentations. I think that's something that we'll explore more in the future. We just co-wrote a book together called Change Happens. And so we've learned even more, and we still are learning, how important leadership is in relationships. So it's one of the things we're excited to do in the future more of.
Okay, you got a question? Yeah.
I want to ask you something.
Sure.
You said something before, and I'm going to take you in direction you may not want to go. You said
Okay.
that you did not want to press charges.
Correct.
Is that how it works? I mean, if the authorities know that something like this took place, they don't do anything? Is it not like somebody come and breaks in somewhere and the owner doesn't want to press charges, but still the person broke the law?
Sure. That's a great question, Amnon. In my case, the authorities were never involved. And again, that was my decision to say, by that point I had left home, and I said, honestly, and I still wouldn't want to go through pressing charges and a trial and just the mess. At the
Right.
time, I was just not emotionally equipped to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I've learned and read now, I think that was probably the best decision for me, and just in terms of being able to heal. It's a very, very difficult situation to find yourself under the scrutiny, like we see a lot of times even in the media now, for someone who wants to press rape charges or something like that. There's just a lot of emotional turmoil in going through that and defending that, and I was not equipped to do that at that time. I don't know that I still would be,
Okay.
even now today, honestly.
All right. Okay. No, I mean, I was just wondering.
Sure. No, that's a great question. I get asked that a lot.
And I'm sorry it happened.
Well, God doesn't cause the pain in our lives, but He can use it. And,
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be telling that story.
And I want to first of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And,
My pleasure, Terrence.
And for sharing your story. But also, I want to mention just to kind of go over again what we talked about. What's from you growing up on a small farm in Alabama and going through, that trauma as a teenager. But also, again, the resilience that you had to continue to press forward. And like you said, not to press charges or not to look back like that's something that I got to get him for that. You let it go, because what that does, it frees your mindset, to let that go. Let God handle that. And you continue to move forward in your life, because I have been blessed in many ways. You've been able to share your story, but also you've been able to take that and take that on a platform, to let others know that just because something like that, a misfortune happened to you, that don't stop you. That don't stop you on your track. Again, you spoke about resilience. You've written 2 books. The first book, From Ashes to Beauty, and then the other books, Bound.
Beyond Bound and Broken.
Beyond Bound and Broken. So, you've taken that, what was negative, and turned it into a positive, and at the same time you've had a productive life, and you still have a productive life because of that. So that didn't stop you from being you. It actually made you stronger in a lot of ways, because like you said, there was a mindset shift to where, you said, I'm not going to let that stop me. You went and got 3 degrees. You married the best partner, and you all have, collaborated on a joint venture that you share the platform for others to build from, leadership development. So again, I want to thank you for coming on the show, for
Thank
sharing
you.
those experiences. And you're welcome back anytime. But again, you said they can get your books on your website and on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and such.
Yes, Amazon.com or topstoryleadership.com.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Terrence. My
and-
pleasure.
All right. So have a blessed evening and continue to do what you're doing. We appreciate you. I want to thank the audience for tuning in today. And we'll be back again next Tuesday, same time, 2 o'clock, from 2 to 3. You all have a blessed and beautiful week. Take care.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, My Life, My Will with Gisela DiCarlo, The Tanya Love Show, Health Then with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Triangle Be Well with Howard Jacobson, Lunch and Learn with Rabbi Yisrael Cutler, Lessons of Vietnam with NCVVI members, Current Affairs with Amnon Nissan. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section on nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Atomos.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.